She told her to get on her knees and clean the floor beneath a room full of executives. Not because it was dirty, because she could. They laughed. She obeyed. Quite humble. Invisible. But what none of them knew was that the woman holding the mop on the building they were sitting in. Oh wow, she's really just gonna stand there like that? Lisa Trent didn't whisper it. She said it loud, loud enough for the entire glass-walled conference room to hear, loud enough for the junior associates to chuckle into their coffees. Her red nails tapped against the conference table like she was bored. Then she turned and aimed a sweet, saccharine smile at the black woman holding the mop. "Sweetie," she called out, voice high and syrupy, "you missed a spot. Right under Mr. Dawson's chair. Go ahead and crawl in, don't be shy. We're all friends here, right?" Laughter rolled across the room like spilled water. It wasn't a roar, it was worse. It was light, casual, like they were all in on a private joke. Raina Carter stood at the doorway, mop in hand, gloves already damp. Her back straightened just slightly, but she didn't move. Not yet. Not when Lisa added, "I mean, if you're going to wear that uniform, you might as well own it, right? Let's see some of that strong work ethic you people are famous for." Another snicker. A paper cup hissed against the table. No one looked at Lisa like she'd said anything wrong. Raina walked in slowly. Her shoes squeaked against the polished floor like they didn't want to carry her. The air in the room shifted, not out of discomfort, but entertainment. This was theater now. Something to break up the 2 p.m. boredom. She lowered herself under the table, her knees touching cold tile. She could smell shoe polish and old cologne. One man scooted his feet away from her like she was dirty. Lisa leaned forward, hands clasped. "That's it, honey. See? You do know how to follow instructions." A few chuckles. One too loud cough to hide a laugh. The mop smeared over an invisible stain. There was nothing there. Not really. Nothing but Raina's dignity, soaking into the floor. Then Lisa added almost casually, like tossing salt on a wound, "Maybe next time, show a little initiative. You want to stay on payroll, don't you?" Raina's hand froze. Her jaw tightened. And from beneath the table, hidden from view, her fingers slowly curled into a fist. She kept wiping. Not because there was anything on the floor, but because if she stopped, she wasn't sure what would happen. Her palm moved in slow, tight circles, the rubber glove squeaking faintly as the laughter above her died down. The floor smelled like lemon and humiliation. One man adjusted his chair so she wouldn't touch his shoes. She caught his face in the reflection of the table's chrome base. He looked embarrassed, not for her, but for himself. Lisa's voice rang out again. "See, this is what I mean when I say accountability. It's not just for managers. It starts with the small people doing the small jobs. Right, Raina?" "Raina," she corrected quietly, barely louder than a breath. Lisa blinked. Raina looked up from under the table, meeting Lisa's eyes squarely. "My name is Raina, not Rena." The room went still for half a second, half a breath. Lisa's lips parted, amused. "Oh, my bad. Raina. Hard to keep track these days." The way she said it, like Raina was just one in a blur of nameless faces, replaceable as paper towels, stung sharper than any insult. And yet, Raina just nodded once, wiped one last invisible streak, then slowly backed out from under the table. Her knees cracked softly. Her gloves left smudges on the pristine floor behind her. She stood. And that's when Lisa clapped. 1, 2, 3 little sarcastic taps. Give her a hand, people. Seriously. Look at that commitment. Someone laughed. A slow, uncomfortable chuckle. Another followed. Then another. And Raina just stood there, silent, unmoving, until Lisa added, "You know, if you work this hard upstairs, maybe you'd be more than a mop by now." Raina blinked. Then said low and even, "Maybe I already am." The air in the room changed. Just a little. Like someone had cracked a window that wasn't there. Lisa blinked, her smirk twitching as if trying to decide whether to laugh or correct Raina again. But Raina was already turning, mop in hand, walking back toward her cart parked beside the glass wall. Her back was straight. her steps unhurried. Behind her, the meeting stumbled back to life. Something about Q3 targets. Regional goals. A few voices tried to reassert control, but they were thinner now. Less certain. Lisa cleared her throat and sat down like a queen reclaiming her throne, but her eyes followed Raina too long. Raina pressed the mop into the wringer slowly, water sloshing with a satisfying twist. As it drained, she watched their reflections in the window. 24 stories up, the city stretched out below them, indifferent and endless. Inside, she saw Lisa's reflection too, leaning forward, eyes narrowed slightly, pretending to focus on a chart someone was pointing at. She'd seen that look before. Not the sharpness. The calculation. Years ago, at a private gala no one in this room would ever get invited to, she'd seen a senior executive speak to her father that same way. Polite, careful, unsure where the real power lay. Back then, she'd been a teenager in a gold dress, standing in heels too tall and expectations too heavy. Harold Carter had put a hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Watch the room, not the speaker. The truth hides in the glances." A printer in the corner hummed to life. Paper spilled out, ignored. A low murmur buzzed from Lisa's laptop as she clicked through a slide. Raina took one quiet step back toward her cart. She wasn't finished. "Actually," Lisa called out, too brightly, "Raina, could you do me one more favor?" She turned slowly, one brow raised. Lisa smiled sweetly. "Since you're already in here, why don't you take those trash bins too? They're starting to stink." There were no bins in the room. Raina's eyes flicked to the corners. Nothing but spotless carpet and a few briefcases. She tilted her head just a bit, letting the question hang there. Was Lisa testing her? Seeing how far she could push? No one intervened. Not a single suit at the table looked up. Just mouse clicks and fake coughs. Raina walked back toward the room. The glass door swung slowly behind her. She picked up a non-existent bin, hands gliding over empty air like she was lifting something heavy. A few people chuckled again. One woman, an intern, probably, bit her lip to keep from laughing. Lisa watched her the whole time, eyes glittering. As Raina emptied the invisible trash into her cart, she glanced at Lisa and said, "Just loud enough." Strange thing about trash, it always smells worse when people pretend it isn't there. The room froze again. Lisa's smile slipped, just slightly, and then returned like a mask being reapplied. "Excuse me?" Raina straightened. "You asked me to take out trash that doesn't exist. I figured you were speaking in metaphors." No one moved. Lisa stood now, walking around the table. Her heels clicked sharply against the floor. She stopped inches from Raina, tilting her head like she was sizing her up. "You think you're clever? I think I've had a lot of practice being quiet around people who think they're in charge." Lisa's jaw tensed. "You're lucky you even have this job." There was the first crack in the porcelain. Raina didn't respond. She just looked down at the floor, then back up again. "You sure you're the one who gave it to me?" Lisa's mouth opened, but no words came. The door behind them opened suddenly. Everyone flinched a little. A woman in a charcoal blazer stepped in with a tablet and a tight smile. "Miss Trent, your 4 o'clock client meeting was rescheduled. He won't be coming. But Mr. Carter's assistant called. He wants a word with you. Privately. Now." The name hit the room like a dropped glass. Lisa blinked. "Mr. Carter? This. The CEO. Of?" Lisa glanced around, suddenly unsure. The assistant didn't clarify. She didn't need to. Behind her, Raina adjusted the mop in her hands and said nothing. The air felt colder now. Heavier. Even the suits at the table stopped pretending to work. Someone whispered something, but it died in their throat. Lisa laughed, too loudly. "No problem. He'll be right there." The assistant nodded and slipped out as quickly as she'd arrived. Lisa turned to the table. "Keep going without me. I'll be back in 5. She shot one last look at Raina, a tight smile stretched too thin. "Don't wander too far, sweetheart." And then she left. The room felt like a held breath. Raina stood for another moment, then slowly walked to the window, gloves still on, mop leaning beside her. Her reflection in the glass stared back at her. So, she reached into the side pouch of her cart and pulled out her phone. One message glowed on the screen. From a number with no name attached. Just 6 words. Be ready. She'll learn today. The moment Lisa stepped out, the conference room exhaled. Not relief, something messy. The kind of silence that comes after someone storms out, and nobody wants to admit they enjoyed it. Chairs creaked. Someone cleared their throat. The screensaver on the main monitor kicked in. No one looked at Raina. Not directly. But she saw them looking, in the glass, in the chrome, in the way one man suddenly checked his phone like it could rescue him from the discomfort pooling in the air. Raina moved slowly, deliberately. She returned to her cart, removed her gloves with a careful peel, and dropped them into the trash bag she hadn't needed. The sound was soft, final, like sealing something away. A younger associate, the intern from earlier, slipped out of her chair and walked toward Raina, clutching a file like a shield. She looked nervous, but something in her eyes sparked. She whispered. That was insane. I'm sorry she talks to you like that. Raina tilted her head, studying her for a long, long second. Then she smiled. A small one. Quiet. You're not the one who needs to be sorry. The girl nodded quickly, eyes darting back toward the room. She slipped back to her seat without another word. In the hallway, Lisa's heels were moving faster now. Not the steady, clipped strut from earlier. These were sharper, uneven. Her voice drifted faintly, arguing, then lowering again. Someone else's voice responded, calm, steady, male. Then nothing. The conference room door creaked open again. Everyone's heads snapped up. But it wasn't Lisa. It was a man in a charcoal gray suit. Silver hair. No tie. Just the softest glint of gold at his wrist and a presence that made people sit straighter without knowing why. Raina didn't turn around. She didn't need to. She knew the rhythm of his steps like a song she grew up on. Harold Carter stepped inside the room like he owned the air. Because he did. No one said his name. They didn't have to. Every person at that table had seen his photo on the corporate site, on the Forbes profile, in the company orientation videos they barely paid attention to. But no one had ever seen him here, not on this floor. Not in person. He looked around the room, his gaze soft but unblinking. Then he smiled. Good afternoon. Everyone muttered a variation of, Good afternoon, Mr. Carter. Awkward. Choked. The kind of greeting you give when your boss's boss walks into the room unannounced. Then he turned to her. Raina. She turned slowly. Daddy. A ripple moved through the room like a lightning bolt that didn't quite hit, just passed so close it made your hair stand up. Harold smiled, eyes crinkling. I thought you'd be done by now. I was, she said, but I figured I'd finish what I started. A quiet laugh rumbled from him. Still thorough. She nodded once. You taught me that. He turned back to the room, that easy calm still on his face. But his eyes sharpened just slightly. I understand there's been a bit of confusion about roles and respect on this floor. No one dared speak. I've spent years building this company with the idea that leadership means service, that every position matters, that no job is beneath anyone. His gaze swept the table. But somewhere along the way, some people seemed to have forgotten that. One man, Dawson, the one whose chair Raina had crawled under, swallowed hard and looked down. Harold continued. The irony is, Raina doesn't work here. Now they looked at her. Every single one of them. She's not on the janitorial staff. She's not employed in any department. He walked over to her, standing beside her like a lighthouse next to the shore. She's here to observe, to learn, because she owns 1/3 of this company. The silence was deafening. The intern gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another just sat back like the air had left their lungs. Harold turned back to Raina. I gave you this floor to shadow for a week. See how things run. Watch who respects the foundation we built and who doesn't. She nodded. I saw enough. He raised a brow. Including Lisa? She was the loudest. But not the only one. The weight of that landed like a stone in the middle of the table. Several people shifted, uncomfortable now, not just from fear, but from reflection. Complicity. The silence they'd worn like suits. Harold looked around again. Oh. Some people are about to be very busy cleaning up the mess they made. Then he stepped back. Raina. She looked at him. Then at the room. Then down at her cart, gloves, mop, trash bag, bucket. The costume they all believed. She didn't need to say a word. She just pushed it slowly toward the door. And stopped. Then, without looking back, she said, "Don't worry. Lisa's not fired." They all froze. She's being given a chance to learn. Raina paused. Starting tomorrow, she'll be the new receptionist. Right outside this room. Then she walked out. And this time, nobody laughed. The door whispered shut behind her, but the silence she left behind screamed. Inside, no one moved. The chairs, the table, the untouched coffee mugs, everything seemed frozen in glass. A few glanced at each other, silently asking questions they didn't dare say aloud. Was this real? Had they just watched a janitor fire the floor's most feared manager? They'd watched the CEO's daughter deliver a sentence more elegant and more humiliating than any firing could ever be. In the hallway, Raina didn't stop walking. She left the cart beside the elevator, peeled off the badge clipped to her shirt, one that had never scanned properly anyway, and handed it to a passing security guard. He nodded. He'd known the truth the whole time. Not because someone told him, but because he'd watched her walk every day like she didn't need permission. Behind her, the conference room door finally opened. Lisa stepped back inside, slowly. She looked changed. Not in clothes, not in hair, not even in posture. But in the way her eyes flicked to the now empty chair at the head of the table. In the way she didn't speak first. In the way no one stood to greet her, or even offered a joke to cut the tension. Her power had been unspoken before, but now, its absence screamed. She walked toward her seat, but stopped when Harold's assistant walked in behind her. "Lisa," she said too politely, "we'll need to have you cleared from the executive systems. I've already informed HR. Your new desk will be on the ground floor, reception wing." Lisa opened her mouth, then closed it, then said, barely above a whisper, "What about my team?" "You'll still be part of the company," the assistant replied. "But you'll report to the front desk supervisor. And starting next week, you'll be required to attend our monthly employee relations seminar." Lisa's hands curled into fists. "This is a mistake." The assistant didn't blink. "No. This is correction." And then she walked away. Lisa turned, slowly, to face the table. No one met her eyes. Not even Dawson. Especially not Dawson. She gave a tight, clipped breath and muttered, "Unbelievable," before grabbing her tablet and walking straight back out, her heels clicking faster now, less confident, more hunted. When the door closed again, a soft voice broke the silence. "Did you know?" It was the intern. She looked at Dawson, her eyes wide. He shifted. About what? Who she was. He didn't answer. Someone else said, "Does it matter?" Another replied, "It does now." Downstairs, in the reception wing, Lisa stood in front of a curved desk that looked like it hadn't been dusted since the building opened. A bored-looking woman in a pink cardigan popped her gum and handed her a login sheet. Lisa didn't move. The woman looked up. "You Lisa Trent?" She nodded. "Welcome. You'll be shadowing me for the rest of the week. Phones ring nonstop. Don't answer like you're mad. People hate that." Lisa stared at her. "I'm not staying." The woman shrugged. "But the CEO said otherwise." Lisa blinked. "Wait, he told you?" "Girl." The woman smiled. "Everybody knows." And just like that, Lisa Trent, once feared by interns and middle management alike, stood holding a clipboard in a lobby she used to pass without a glance. Each second stretched longer than the one before. A man walked by and dropped his visitor badge on the counter without looking at her. "Don't forget to smile," her new trainer said, eyes on a magazine. "Reception is all about attitude." Back upstairs, Harold Carter stood at the window, watching the city sprawl. "She handled that better than I thought," he said quietly. Raina stood next to him, silent. "You sure this is the lesson you want her to learn?" he asked. She looked up at him. She humiliated people because no one ever held up a mirror. I'm not punishing her. I'm giving her a chance to see. Harold studied her for a long time. And if she refuses? Then that says more than I ever could. He smiled. You were always your mother's daughter. A soft ding echoed behind them as the elevator doors opened. The intern stepped in, holding a tray with coffee. She paused, stunned to see Raina standing next to the seat. Raina smiled gently. Hazelnut for me? The girl nodded wordlessly and handed it over. Then she turned to Harold. Sir, I just wanted to say thank you. He raised an eyebrow. For what? For not letting people like her win. Raina stepped forward, meeting the intern's eyes. She only won because no one stood up. The intern blinked. Do you think she'll change? Raina sipped her coffee. That's up to her. Outside the glass walls, the sky darkened, storm clouds rolling in, thick and gray. Rain began to streak the windows in uneven lines. It was the kind of rain that softened everything, but sometimes washed things clean. Harold looked at his daughter again. Ready to go? She nodded. I've got what I came for. And as they turned toward the elevator, the floor below buzzed. Phones ringing, people talking, lives going on. Except for one woman at a front desk, who now had to answer to the silence she once forced others to swallow. The next morning, Lisa showed up 15 minutes early. Not out of discipline, but fear. She was trying to reclaim something, anything, of the woman she used to be. Her blazer was crisp. Her hair was straightened to perfection. But behind her eyes was the desperate gleam of someone trying to pretend yesterday hadn't happened. The receptionist, Valerie, now her supervisor, raised an eyebrow when she saw her. Look who's early. Cute, she said without looking up from her crossword. Phones light up at 8:05. You'll take the left headset. Smile when you talk. We're the first voice people hear. Got it? Lisa nodded tightly. Got it. The headset felt wrong in her hands. Too plastic. Too light. She adjusted it like it might electrocute her. Then the line rang. She clicked too late. Fumbled the greeting. Thank you for calling Crandall and Carter. How may I? The voice on the other end cut her off, irritated. Been holding forever. Lisa swallowed. I apologize for the delay. She stared at the disconnected call, chest tightening. Another line blinked. Then two more. Valerie didn't look up. This ain't middle management, sugar. You drop a ball here, it's the whole damn building that trips. Lisa muttered, I know how to handle pressure. Valerie snorted. Yeah, you sure? Upstairs, Dawson peeked over his cubicle wall, eyes flicking toward the elevator. Everyone was pretending nothing happened, but nobody believed it. The buzz on the floor was electric, charged with discomfort, curiosity, and something else. Respect. For Raina. The intern from earlier, her name was Naomi, had printed out a memo Raina sent out early that morning. To read simply, respect is the floor we stand on, not the ceiling we reach for. Make sure yours is solid. No title. No signature. Just that. And still, everyone knew who it came from. Downstairs, Lisa struggled to answer calls and smile through gritted teeth. People passed her without acknowledgement. Others lingered, whispering behind folders. A delivery guy handed her a coffee order with a wink that stung more than a slap. She could feel it building, pressure behind her ribs, a slow swelling heat she hadn't felt since her early days as an intern, terrified and ignored. And now? She was beneath ignored. She was observed, studied, poked like a specimen behind glass. By lunch, her throat was dry. Her cheeks hurt from fake smiles. Her fingers trembled when she typed visitor names. One woman chuckled and said, Funny, you look just like the exec who used to scream at me on the elevator. Lisa didn't answer, because the truth was echoing now, louder than the phone. Upstairs, Raina sat quietly in a glass office that had been empty for months. She hadn't claimed it yet. She was just occupying it, watching, listening, letting the storm she didn't start run its course. Harold stepped in without knocking. She's not doing well, he said. She's not supposed to, Raina replied. She'll either crumble or shift. Raina's gaze stayed fixed outside the glass. Either way, she won't stay the same. Harold stepped closer. You don't feel sorry for her? Raina's lips tightened. I feel sorry for the girl I used to be. The one who thought staying quiet made me stronger. He nodded. And now? Now I know silence just makes their laughter louder. Downstairs, Lisa's headset slipped off her ear mid-call. The cord tangled. She bent down to fix it, only to smack her head on the edge of the desk. Valerie winced. Rookie move. Lisa blinked back tears. It wasn't the pain. It was the sound of people walking by, laughing. Not cruelly. Not maliciously. Just casually. The kind of laugh you make when you've moved on. When the one who used to rule the floor no longer matters. Lisa sat back slowly, headset dangling from her lap. She looked at her reflection in the desk's glass panel. The smudges from her own fingers. The cracks behind her eyes. For the first time, she looked small. The elevator doors opened behind her. She didn't turn. But she felt the presence before the voice spoke. You missed a call. It was Raina. Lisa stood, stiffly. I'm not interested in a pep talk. Good, Raina said. I'm not here to give one. Their eyes met. For the first time, Lisa didn't look away. Not in defiance. Not in arrogance. But in surrender. The receptionist wing fell quiet. Even Valerie paused, eyes flicking up over her magazine. And Raina, soft but steady, said, Do you want to learn, Lisa? Or do you just want it to stop hurting? Lisa's throat tightened. She didn't speak. Not yet. Lisa didn't speak. She looked at Raina like someone coming up for air too fast, eyes wide, skin pale, her mouth slightly open. She started, then stopped. Because the answer wasn't simple. And Raina wasn't asking for a confession, she was asking for a choice. Say nothing if you want it to stop hurting, Raina said softly. But say something if you want to change. Lisa looked around the reception area. The smudged desk. The blinking phones. Valerie, pretending not to listen. Her reflection in the glossy surface. Her shame, her loss, her fall, laid out like pieces of a broken sculpture. Then she said it, quite hoarse, real. I want to learn. Raina nodded once. Then listen. She stepped forward, not as a CEO's daughter, not as the woman who'd been forced to scrub beneath a table, but as someone who'd survived humiliation and refused to pass it forward. You don't get to fix what you broke overnight, Raina said. But you get to stop breaking more. Lisa swallowed. How? Start by answering the phone. With kindness. A small, half-sobbed laugh escaped Lisa's lips. And for the first time in days, it wasn't bitter. She picked up the blinking line. Her voice shook. Good morning, Crandall and Carter. How may I help you? Raina turned and walked away. She didn't need to stay. The lesson was no longer hers to give. It was Lisa's to live. That afternoon, Raina walked the same halls she once mopped. People didn't look past her now. They greeted her, paused to ask her name. Some apologized outright. Others just nodded respectfully, acknowledging what they once ignored. She didn't need their guilt. She just needed their change. At the far end of the floor, Naomi stood holding a box of pastries. For the front desk, she said. Thought it might help. Raina smiled. She'll appreciate that. Naomi hesitated. Do you think she really can change? Raina looked at her, then out the window where the sun had just started to break through the clouds. I think we're all capable of becoming who we should have been, if someone just holds up the mirror. That evening, Lisa sat alone at the front desk, one hand on the phone, the other resting gently on the pastry box. She hadn't opened it yet. She just stared at the note on top. Said, kindness isn't weakness. It's memory. It's how we treat others so they don't feel what we once felt. There was no name signed. But she knew exactly who sent it. And for the first time since her fall, Lisa Trent, once feared, now forgotten, felt something like hope. A small, flickering thing. But real. Upstairs, Harold stood outside Raina's new office. She hadn't taken the CEO's seat, not officially. She hadn't put up her nameplate. Hadn't moved in any furniture. But the room already belonged to her. The stillness inside was different now. Not cold, not empty, but thoughtful. Like the kind of silence that follows a final note in a symphony. "You're staying?" Harold asked from the doorway. Raina looked up, tired but at peace. "For a while," she said. "There's still more to fix." He smiled. "Proud of you." "I didn't do it for that," she said softly. "I know. That's why it matters." Outside the window, the city glowed. Not loud, not fast, just steady. And far below, Lisa answered the phone with a softer voice than she'd ever used in her life. It wasn't redemption. It was the beginning. If this story hit you deep, you're not alone. This wasn't just about race, or class, or office power games. This was about dignity, about standing tall without raising your voice, about knowing your worth even when others don't. If you felt Raina's quiet strength, if you believe humility can be more powerful than revenge, if you've ever been underestimated, drop a comment below and tell us. Was Raina right not to fire Lisa outright? Would you have shown that kind of grace? Or would you have gone harder? We want to hear your take. Like if you were moved, share with someone who needs this story today. Subscribe to Justice Throne for more slow burn, real-time drama that doesn't just entertain, it speaks truth. Until next time, stand tall, stay quiet, then let the world hear you without raising your voice. Justice Throne, real stories, real power.